Bannon says that?
Bannon statement.
Wow, that sounds like a lefty.
Why do you think I
He's
said
very
I agree with Steve
populist.
Bannon? That rarely happens.
Looks like the ladies of The View apparently were shocked to find themselves agreeing with none other than Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's advisor in his first term, still a friend of his who he talks to regularly. But what could they possibly find common ground on? Well, the panel was actually commenting on Bannon's ongoing feud with Elon Musk. In a recent interview, Bannon went nuclear, as he tends to do, on Musk.
In a surprising twist, Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks said she agrees with Steve Bannon. Yes, that Steve Bannon, despite being on opposite ends of the political spectrum, they've found common ground on one big issue: economic populism and the growing power of tech billionaires like Elon Musk. So, what exactly did Bannon say that caught the attention of progressives and even The View? Let's take a closer look.
As a parasitic, illegal immigrant, he wants to impose his freak experiments and act as God without any respect for the country's history, values, or traditions. He says that Doge is sitting there with the budget, but where the F are the Doge cuts? We are 30 days away from approving a budget for the entire year with $2 trillion already baked in, and not one penny of anything that Doge found. It's ludicrous. And then he says it's pretty evident the president's using Musk as an armor-piercing shell that's delivering blunt force trauma against the administrative state. Now, Bannon even went so far as to call Elon Musk an agent of Chinese influence. But for now, Bannon seems to be making his peace with Musk, or at least trying to, even though he made those comments during the Unheard interview not too long ago. Here's what he's saying: the enemy of the enemy is my friend. This country is being destroyed by the Praetorian Guard of the administrative state. Elon is helping expose this. So I guess there are some redeeming qualities, according to Steve Bannon here, as it pertains to Elon Musk. Yesterday, though, Bannon warned Republicans that they should not trust oligarchs.
You can tell President Trump doesn't totally trust the oligarchs. We're putting in very tough antitrust people into the Justice Department and to the alphabet agencies, and they have them on War Room or a huge platform. So look, I'm not a conservative, right? I'm a Republican because I've registered Republican. I'm really a populist nationalist. So as you see here today, these are working class and middle class people, and they don't want the concentration of power. And by the way, those oligarchs and people at CNN are understanding, just like they've turned on you now, right? They've abandoned the progressive left. They will abandon us in the same thing. They seek power. Right now, their feeling is they can see the math, and they see that we have a building coalition. So they're with us, but only temporarily.
So all of this context in mind, here's The View's full take on this beef between Elon Musk and Steve Bannon.
It started when The View co-hosts, who usually oppose everything Bannon stands for, found themselves nodding along with some of his recent comments. Bannon went after Elon Musk, calling him a parasitic illegal immigrant and accusing him of working for the establishment under the pretense of reform. At the same time, he admitted Musk has helped expose government corruption. This contradiction shows a split inside right-wing populism. People like Bannon both criticize and depend on billionaires, unsure if they're allies or threats.
To say it, but I agree with Steve Bannon on this one, purely because, you know, they're cutting all these programs. They're saying they're going to cut the fat, and they have numbers. Before they ever went in, they said, we want to get $1 trillion out. That's a businessman's approach to a government. And what Bannon stands for, which breaks with Elon Musk, is don't tax overtime, don't tax Social Security, give the money to the people that need it the most.
Who, Bannon says that?
Bannon
Wow, that sounds like a lefty.
Why do you think I
He's
said I
very
agree with
populist.
Steve Bannon? That rarely happens. But on this, I do agree with him. Trump ran on helping the people that voted him in. And what he's doing is he's in there now and he's breaking in the corporate greed area, which is I'm going to give tax breaks to people that can afford it more than anyone else. Steve Bannon says it is going to hurt for all of us. We all got into this together. You need to give the breaks to the lower and the middle class. Stop slashing and helping the top. They don't need more.
You sound like
And that's
Bernie
what-
Sanders also.
I know. This is when I Bernie out.
So, look, if I had to pick either person, right, I agree more with Steve Bannon's statements, his rhetoric in regard to the economy. I don't trust Elon Musk, and I don't blame Bannon for telling Republican voters that they should be careful with the tech oligarchs who were Democrats yesterday and seem to be utilizing the Trump administration for their own benefit. But what do you think about the ladies over at The View? You think they're funded by Polymarket?
So a couple of things, guys. There's the Bannon portion of this, which is super interesting, and then there's the reaction to Bannon, which is also interesting. So on Bannon himself, very complicated character. We've talked about his downsides endlessly, including ripping people off on the fake wall that he was going to build, etc. And my God, no one is more anti-immigrant than Steve Bannon is in a way that is, that I massively disagree with. And so, and I disagree with him here when he says that Elon Musk is a parasitic, illegal immigrant. I don't think he's illegal. And so using that kind of language doesn't help at all in relation to immigrants. And I want to be careful and tell you that armor-piercing shell comment that he had about Elon was actually a positive comment. He was saying, on the other hand, he's a armor-piercing shell being used to batter the system, right? And he views that as a positive. And he's trying to have it both ways, criticize him viciously, but then turn around and say, well, I see some of the good. So I'm sure that's why Donald Trump is using him, because he's so smart, because he's trying to curry favor with Trump. And I get the politics of that. Having said all of that, did you notice he said that he was not a conservative?
Yeah.
That was an interesting comment. And he said, I'm a Republican, but only registered that way. So not really a Republican. He said, I'm a populist nationalist.
Yeah, he actually says that a lot. And yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
You know why? Because, one, he is, and he's been that way the whole time, for bad and for good. There's a lot of parts that we agree with the populism, right? The nationalism is dangerous, and we love America, but loving America doesn't mean you should be a nationalist. That's a totally different thing in a different conversation.
What really made people take notice is Bannon's support for economic populism. He's strongly against tax breaks for the wealthy and cuts to programs like Medicaid and Social Security stances, more in line with Bernie Sanders than traditional Republicans. He argues that these cuts hurt the working class, especially the GOP's own base. This puts him at odds with corporate conservatives and explains why even critics on The View acknowledged he made valid points. Bannon also warned that tech billionaires now backing Republicans are doing so for profit, not principles, and could switch sides again when it benefits them.
When we first started saying, hey guys, there's some populists in the right wing, and there's some fake populists, there's some real populists, and there's some, and their media is now splintered, and they don't all agree. We got a wall of, shut up, they're all evil, they're all racist, etc. You shouldn't talk to any of them. We're anti-knowledge. We don't want to know. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, The View, of all people, The View is like, oh, Steve Bannon, interesting. Huh. Okay. And now I'm hearing other left-wing hosts online who are like, oh, Steve Bannon. Really? And talking about building coalitions. Really? I thought we were collaborators. What happened? Now, all of a sudden, it turns out, oh, right, you might want to build some coalitions if you'd like to win on policy, if you'd like to stop Elon Musk. Or if Elon Musk is right, as opposed to Steve Bannon on things like immigration, then you go on Elon Musk's side. Hey, look at that. Now you're relevant. Instead of being an irrelevant guy yelling into the abyss that isn't helping your voters, your side, your policies at all, right? So I'm glad that people are coming around to realizing, try to win over the voters, try to build coalitions that are effective and are going towards the things that we believe in, not going towards the things that we are opposed to. You fight those. Not complicated, obvious. So, and by the way, if you notice, despite the fact that when we were the first to do it, everyone blasted us. It didn't take that long for people to start coming to their senses and go, oh yeah, well, if he does agree with us and he's against Musk or Trump in that particular case, maybe we should say yes to agreeing with us.
While still blasting us, though. So
That's okay. That's okay. So the bottom line is we're getting a little bit more rational now. So don't ever let your guard down. It's not like, oh, Steve Bannon's a swell guy. Put him in the Oval Office, see what happens, right? No. On the other hand, what he's talking about, and he's now saying this a lot, raise corporate taxes.
Yeah.
Don't lower corporate taxes. Yes. Yes, we agree. So when Bannon agrees with us, take the frickin' win, right? And then fight him on all the other things.
but they're going to lower corporate taxes.
Of course, that's where Bannon, us, doesn't matter. We're all, the right-wing populists, the independents, we're all going to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Because that's where the real money is. That's trillions of dollars in tax cuts to the donor class. And so, and if you'll notice, MAGA, whether it's the Democratic donor class or the Trump donor class, they're all going to get not billions, trillions in tax cuts.
They sure are.
And all of those supposed savings, they're not going to you. They're going to those tax cuts.
Yeah, the oligarchs, the tech oligarchs specifically, have co-opted the bag of...
While Bannon's hardline views on nationalism and immigration remain deeply divisive, his message about economic inequality struck a chord. One host even said his ideas sounded a lot like Bernie Sanders. This rare moment of agreement highlights how economic issues can unite people from different political backgrounds. As both right-wing populists and progressive leaders raise concerns about wealth inequality and corporate power, the usual left versus right divide is shifting. Today, the real fight might be between the working class and the elites, not just Democrats, V's, Republicans. Whether this change leads to real action or just more political drama remains to be seen, but economic populism is clearly gaining ground.